So ARMA 3 turned 10 yesterday, and I wanted to talk a bit about its massive staying power and why I think it will continue to be played for another 10 years. So ARMA was released on the 12th of September 2013 while I was still playing Battlefield on the Xbox 360, so I wasn't there for the beginning. Now, while ARMA 3 was following in the footsteps of its fairly popular ARMA 2, it didn't blow up till the 2nd of January 2014, just after the Steam sale, and people started giving the military shooter a go. And the first thing that would have struck them was the huge scale of the game. While most games can have massive battles across several miles, ARMA missions can take place across entire countries. Liberation missions to secure every location on a map can take months to complete, with a small group playing every weekend. And because of this huge scale, you can have massive multi-layered battles and different battles across different areas with all sorts of vehicles involved, like jets and helicopters and tanks and cars and everyone moving around in this huge area and doing their own little thing and then coming together to meet and do a big thing. It's just absolutely awe-inspiring. The second big thing that stands out with ARMA is how many eras of combat the game has, including the DLCs. You can play almost any time in the last 100 years, from World War II to Vietnam to Cold War to modern day and even the close future. And these just aren't single missions or anything, these are full-on campaigns and game overhauls that basically turn the entire game into their era. So, for instance, Prairie Fire has helicopters, guns, uniforms, gear, maps, missions, mechanics. It's completely immersive in the era that this takes place in. Third is the groups you get around this game. Now, ARMA is a tactical shooter which you can play solo, but it's much easier with others and much more enjoyable in my opinion. So most players will go onto the servers and look for people to join, to engage with a bigger group. And what a wide variety of groups there is. From folk that will say, "Yes sir," all the time, to people who act like a middle school playground and everything in between. So any sort of levels of milsim you're into, you're bound to find at least one group that's going to match that. And what's beautiful about it is obviously all these groups talk to each other and communicate, and you get ops playing with each other, and you'll see the different ways that they operate, but obviously they work together to get the common goal done, and it's just loads of fun. Last but certainly not least is mods, which I will say without a doubt is probably the biggest reason why ARMA has lasted this long. At the time I wrote this script for this video, there is 28,000 mods for the game, which is insane considering most games on the Steam Workshop have under 1,000. Under 500 usually. And these mods can vary from small quality of life improvements to adding a few guns to complete overhauls of the entire game pretty much. Some of these are so good they've become just staples on almost every single server, like Ace or Cup or IHS. Now the base game's not bad, but you'll be able to more accurately recreate units with actual guns and equipments and add little details that just make it a lot more immersive. Just helps draw people into the world a lot more and enjoy it and want to stick around and get involved in these big operations and things. Now that's why it's been played for the first 10 years, but why will it be played for another 10 years? Well, the obvious answer is that there's no other game like ARMA, and no other game is coming to replace it. I've not seen anything that even gets close to the sort of scale that ARMA's looking at and looking at trying to do massive milsims. Obviously there's games that do milsims like Squad and things like that on a grand scale, but nothing like a whole country. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, what about the sequels coming, like Reforger and ARMA 4? Well, one, those games will probably be more demanding than ARMA 3, so you'll find people that can't run the sequels. Two, those games will be more than ARMA 3, so you'll find people that will rather buy the cheaper option or just stick with the game they've bought already. 3. ARMA 3 has a huge mod library that people use to build operations, and while eventually we will have something similar to the huge mod library or for ARMA 4, it will take time to build up to that. It's going to take time for people to build all the assets and the new high-res Reforger engine and things like that, and to sort of design all the stuff, and it probably won't end up being the same. It probably might take more time to build some of the bigger overhauls. So I think eventually ARMA 4 will generally take over ARMA 3 and it'll replace it, and they'll have the same sort of mods sort of library we're looking at now. It will take time, and I think you'll still find players on ARMA 3 in 2033 playing operations and doing games and stuff like that. So I look forward to seeing what happens to the community in the next 10 years.